completing the square. Alright? Can I have your attention? Alright, so we know that the general equation of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equal to 0. Alright? Now, if you want to derive the quadratic formula, you have to complete the square in that general equation. So first thing, we take the c, the right, so we get ax squared plus bx is equal to minus c. Right? I'm completing the square for me to get to the quadratic formula, which I told you about, I think, 2 days or so. Then the next thing, we need to make the coefficient of x squared equal to 1. So in this case, because the coefficient is a, I'm going to divide every term by a. Okay? Like that. So that I will get a, I'll get x squared, I'll get x squared plus b over ax is equal to minus c over a. Okay? Then the next thing now, I need to create a perfect square trinomial on the left-hand side. To create that perfect square trinomial, we divide the coefficient of x. So, if you divide b over a by 2, this is the same as b over a times 1 over 2. So you end up getting b over 2a. Okay? Later on, you are going to be a very good friend of that b over 2a. Later on. Okay? He or she is going to be a very good friend of yours. Okay? So you get x squared plus b over, now in this case, I'll write here my b over ax plus my b over 2a square, all squared is equal to, remember whatever you do on the left, you do it on the right. So on the right hand side, now when you write it on the right hand side now, you start with the square of this term here, that is b over 2a squared. So right here, b over 2a squared minus c over a. Okay? Then, let's factorize the left-hand side. Then we'll simplify the right-hand side. Okay? If I factorize the left-hand side, in fact, I can simplify the left-hand side. Okay? This bracket here is going to become b squared over 4a squared. Okay? So we can end up having x squared plus b over ax plus b squared over 4a squared, that's equal to b squared over 4a squared minus c over a. Right? Like that. So on the left hand side, obviously I'll get x plus b over 2a squared. Right? Remember, the second term is half of the coefficient of the middle term of the original quadratic equation. Right? Then on the right hand side, I need to find the LCD of that denominator. Okay? Now that LCD is going to be 4a squared. Okay? So what that means is, I can write this as b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. So I multiplied the numerator by 4a because the LCD of the right hand side is 4a squared. Okay? Then you can start smiling when you get here now. Now the next thing is to take square root on both sides. So find the square root of x plus b over 2a all squared is equal to plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Right? So the left hand side will become x plus b over 2a. The right hand side, right, the numerator is not a perfect square trinomial. So it's not a perfect square rather. The denominator is a perfect square. So I can rewrite that using the division law of sets. I can write this as plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay? Because the denominator is a perfect square. So if I find its square root, it's going to be 2a. Okay? So it's only the numerator which is going to be affected by the square root sign. Alright, so from here now, we take the b over 2a term to the right. Are you following? Huh? Are you following? Okay, so let's take the b over 2a to the right. If I take it to the right, you get x equal to minus b over 2a plus or minus, right, the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Right? Now, if you look at it here, we have a common denominator, that's 2a. So eventually I can write this as minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Then this is the famous quadratic formula. Okay. Which you are going to be very good friends with for the next coming 2 years and beyond, if possible.
Beyond.
Yeah. Yes.
Essentially, you get 15 steps to simplify.
Okay, I never counted how many steps, but it's quite long to do the derivation. Okay.
Why would you do it?
Okay. Okay. Can I have your attention? Now, please be aware that the derivation I have done here is not examinable. Okay? But it is good for you to know where the quadratic formula comes from. Okay? Where does it originate from? Than for you to just memorize and then you plug in and all. Right? So you now know that the formula comes from the basic equation of a quadratic equation. Okay? If you solve it by the method of completing the square, you come to this point. Right? Now later we are going to talk about this expression, which is called the discriminant. Okay? We're going to talk about that. Discriminant. Later on. That's part of nature of roots, which is your investigation next week.
So please go back to the slide right before the slide. I'm still copying. Thank you.
On Wednesday. All the standardized test investigations, they are all out of 50. It's only the exams that can. The match control test is supposed to have 75. But you're split it into two, 50-50 total of 100. Alright. So let's use this formula to solve quadratic. Okay? You can solve any quadratic equation. Right? So let's just prove that you will get the same answer by utilizing the quadratic formula to solve some of the questions we have done. So I'm gonna redo this question, this one here, using the quadratic formula. We should come to the same answer. Okay, so 2x squared minus 7x plus 6, right? So here, you have 2x squared minus 7x plus 6 equal to 0. right? So I'm sure you have seen now that the quadratic formula is x equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So you need to determine the constants a, b, and c, okay, from your quadratic equation. If the quadratic equation is not in standard form, or if the equation is not in standard form, then convert it to standard form. And the standard form is this. Okay? So our A is 2, B is minus 7, C is 6. Okay? So if you substitute, get x equal to minus. Now here our B is negative, but there's a minus in front of the B in the formula. So write the minus, the formula, then minus 7 plus or minus the square root of minus 7 squared minus 4 times A, which is a 2, times C, which is 6. This is all over 2 times 2. Okay? So you end up getting 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus. Now 4 times 2, that's 8. 8 times 6, you get 48. So this will be all over 4. Okay. Then, I'm sure you saw earlier that 49 minus 42 is 1. So you end up getting x equal to positive 7 plus or minus 1. Okay, that will be plus or minus 1 over 4. So this will give you x equal to 2 or x equal to 3 over 2. Okay. So in actual fact, the quadratic formula is more like you are completing the square, but it's a shortcut way of completing the what? The square. Because the formula itself comes from completing the square. So it is just a shortcut way. Right? Okay.
So,
Okay. Can you, yeah?
will we discuss nature verbs before or after the question?
Well, I'm gonna try and do it maybe after, so that I don't give people too much information there. All right. Um, I'm aware that for this exercise you're supposed to solve by completing the square, but here's the class exercise. Solve number 8 using the quadratic formula. Solve number 8 using the quadratic formula. So do number 8, solve that by using the quadratic formula. Okay. You know what? No one reminded me about the homework. I was supposed to go over the homework. But I think it was mainly because we started the lesson a little bit late, and my mind was thinking about um, completing the square in the quadratic formula. But remember, I gave you homework yesterday. One question, yeah. So I need to go over that question. Okay, if I don't go over it today, I'll do that first thing tomorrow morning. Right. All right. So let's solve that. So you have x squared minus 2 times x plus 2. X squared minus 2 times x plus 2. Am I right to say plus 2 there? Huh? It's a plus 2, right? So